I never thought I'd see betrayal from the one I loved. Jess and I had been together for about 3 years before we decided to get married. When we first started dating, she seemed perfect, smart, funny, confident, and a little bitchy in that charming way that made you think she was just tough but caring underneath. I was crazy about her. We had plans, big ones, and I honestly thought she was the one. But lately, things felt different. Small things at first. She started working late more often, claiming she had to finish some reports or meetings. Her phone always seemed to be glued to her hand, and she became more secretive about it. When I asked her about her phone, she'd brush me off, say I was being paranoid. She'd get defensive if I tried to look at it, and her excuses were getting more elaborate. One night, I came home early from work. I wasn't feeling great, so I decided to surprise her with dinner. I walked into our apartment and immediately sensed something was off. Her purse was on the couch, but her phone was on the table, unlocked, screen lit up with a message notification. I usually wouldn't snoop, okay, I confess. I was tempted, but I didn't want to invade her privacy. Still, something about it made me pause. I sat down and stared at her phone. My heart was pounding. I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't stop myself. I unlocked it, and what I saw made my stomach drop. There were messages, flirty, suggestive texts. Not just a few, dozens. But what tore me apart was a message from someone I didn't even know. An unknown number, but the name underneath it was Boss. Yeah, her boss. A guy named Mark, not a big deal normally, but what I saw in those texts, it was clear they'd been hooking up. The messages weren't just innocent flirting, they were explicit. She was talking about meeting up, about keeping it a secret, about how much she loved the sex with him. I swear I felt the world tilt. It was like my whole life was a lie. Jess always told me she was exhausted from work, that she didn't have time for anything else but this. This was something else entirely. She was cheating on me just days before our wedding. I sat there frozen, holding her phone, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. I couldn't breathe. Everything I thought I knew about her, about us, was shattered. I remembered all the times she'd snapped at me for snooping, calling me paranoid, accusing me of not trusting her. Well, trust is gone now. Completely gone. I didn't even tell her I knew. I just took a mental snapshot of everything, put her phone down, and left the apartment without saying a word. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything. The texts, her face when I confronted her, the fake smile she put on when I asked her about her work meetings. I felt a rage I'd never known. How could she do this? How could she betray me like that right before our wedding? I started questioning everything. Was I stupid for trusting her? Did I miss the signs? More than that, I felt humiliated, like I'd been played for a fool by someone I loved and trusted. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. I wasn't going to let this go. I decided I needed to confront her face to face. I needed answers, truth, no matter how ugly. I knew she'd lie, she'd spin. Some bullshit, but I was prepared for that. I wanted to hear it from her mouth. And I knew this was going to change everything. I just didn't know how much more pain I could take. I waited until she woke up, trying to hold my composure, but inside I was a mess. My stomach was twisted, and my mind was racing. When Jess finally rolled over and saw me staring at her, I knew this wasn't going to be easy. She gave me that bitchy smirk she always used when she was trying to act innocent, like I was overreacting or just imagining things. "Good morning," she said, flipping her hair. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her, then reached for her phone on the nightstand. She immediately tensed up, trying to grab it back, but I was faster. I held it up, the screen still unlocked, and I showed her the messages. Her face instantly changed. The smirk disappeared. Her eyes widened and she looked genuinely caught off guard, but then she snapped. "What the hell is that?" she asked, her voice turning bitchy. "Are you spying on me now? Seriously, you're such a psycho, Alex." I took a deep breath and looked her right in the eyes. "Tell me what this is, Jess, because it's pretty damn clear. You're cheating on me with your boss just days before we're supposed to get married." Her eyes narrowed. "That's a lie. You're just paranoid like always. Those are just some stupid texts, nothing serious. Mark is just a friend. I don't know what you're talking about." I shook my head, feeling a mix of anger and heartbreak. "Don't lie to me. I saw the messages. You said you loved the sex with him, Jess, that you're meeting up with him. Right after you told me you were working late or at some stupid meeting. How long has this been going on?" She rolled her eyes, trying to act dismissive. "Oh, please, you're blowing this out of proportion. Those messages are nothing, probably just some flirtatious crap. You're making a big deal out of nothing like you always do." I couldn't believe her. Her calm, bitchy tone made me furious. I'd never seen her like this, so dismissive, so manipulative. It's like she thought she could just deny everything, spin some bullshit, and I'd back down. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not this time. "Jess," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're lying. I know what I saw, and I know you've been fucking him. You've been lying to me since day one. How could you do this? How could you betray me like this just days before our wedding?" Her face twisted into a sneer. "Betray you? You're overreacting. Honestly, I don't know what's gotten into you. You're so insecure. Maybe I've just been busy with work and you're jealous because I don't pay you enough attention." That was the last straw. I felt a cold rage bubble up inside me. I couldn't believe she was still trying to spin it, still trying to act like she was in the right. All I wanted was to get her to admit it, to face what she'd done. But she kept lying, kept twisting the truth. I knew then I had to do something drastic. I couldn't stay in this twisted mess anymore. I had given her enough chances to be honest, and now I saw she was just a manipulative bitch who thought she could get away with everything. I wanted to hurt her as much as she'd hurt me. I wanted her to feel the pain of betrayal. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do yet, but I knew I couldn't stay in that house with her anymore. I needed to think. I needed to plan my next move. So I got up, told her I'd be back later, and left her there alone with her lies. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just walked out knowing that everything, our wedding, our future, was probably over. The only thing I knew for sure was that I was done trusting her. Done. After that confrontation, everything started to spiral even faster than I expected. I spent the next few hours trying to process what I'd found out, but honestly, I was overwhelmed. I couldn't just sit around and stew in anger, though. I needed to see her phone again, get more proof, figure out exactly how deep this mess went. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, not even to tell the truth if I asked her directly. I waited until she left for work, or whatever she called it, then I snuck back into the apartment. I didn't want to just confront her again. I needed to gather evidence, so I started digging through her stuff. I found her purse, her laptop, everything I could get my hands on. The texts on her phone were a smoking gun, but I wanted more. In her email account, I found receipts from hotels, restaurant reservations, even photos of her and Mark together, all taken over the last couple of weeks. I was sick to my stomach. She'd been sneaking around for a while. It wasn't just a one-time thing. She'd been planning it, covering her tracks. If I just trusted my gut earlier, maybe I could have saved myself the heartbreak. While I was combing through her emails and messages, I also found pictures, some she'd taken herself, others from friends or social media. All of them had her in intimate settings with Mark. The worst part was seeing her smile in those photos, acting like everything was normal, like she wasn't cheating, like she was just living her life. And then I found a note she'd written, an explicit message about how much she loved the sex with him, how she couldn't wait to see him again. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just a fling. It was a full-blown affair. She'd been lying to me right up until the last minute. I felt betrayed on every level, not just by her cheating, but by her lying, her manipulation, all of it. I'd trusted her with my life, my future, and she'd been sneaking around behind my back. I'd never been so angry, so humiliated. I started thinking about how I was going to get even, how I was going to make her feel the same pain she'd put me through. That's when I decided I'd had enough. I couldn't stay with someone who lied and cheated on me. I knew I needed to end this, to walk away for good. But I also knew I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. I wasn't just going to leave quietly. I wanted her to see what her betrayal had cost me. I wanted her to understand that she'd lost everything. Me, us, the life she pretended to want. I left her apartment that night with all the evidence I'd gathered, feeling emptier than I ever had before. Part of me hoped she'd come clean, admit everything, and try to fix it. But deep down, I knew she wouldn't. Jess was a liar, a manipulator. And now, I was done being her fool. I had to figure out my next move, and honestly, I wasn't sure if I was ready for what was coming. The next few days were a blur. I kept replaying everything I found over and over in my head. The hotel receipts, the explicit texts, the photos, every piece of proof that Jess had been lying to me. I felt sick. Betrayal doesn't even begin to cover it. It was like my entire world had been turned upside down, and I was just trying to hold on to whatever was real. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time, I wanted to do it with a clear plan. I didn't want her to spin her usual lies and get away with it. I wanted to see how she'd react when I laid everything out in front of her. No more hiding, no more bullshit. So I called her, told her I wanted to meet. She was bitchy from the start, trying to act annoyed, saying I was wasting her time. But I wasn't in the mood for her attitude. I told her I knew everything about Mark, the hotel stays, the explicit messages, the photos. I told her I wasn't going to take her lies anymore. Her reaction was priceless. She tried to deny everything, of course. Said I was crazy, that I had no proof, that I was just jealous and insecure. She told me I was overreacting and that I was ruining everything because I couldn't handle the truth. But I had enough. I laid all the evidence on the table, pushed her to look at it, and told her that I knew she'd been lying since day one. Her face turned red with anger. She spat at me, calling me a jealous fool, saying I was just too insecure to handle her success at work. She claimed she loved me, that it was just sex with Mark, that it meant nothing. I couldn't believe the bullshit coming out of her mouth. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're just jealous because I don't want a boring life with you. Mark actually excites me." That was the moment I realized her words weren't worth a damn. Jess was good at lying, but I saw through her. She was trying to twist everything, make me doubt myself, make me feel guilty. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I was done, done with her lies, her bullshit, everything. I told her I was leaving and I was never coming back. I knew I had to get out of there fast before she could spin more stories or try to manipulate me further. I grabbed my stuff, told her to pack her shit too, and left her there, face full of anger and frustration. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, walking out of the apartment that was supposed to be our future. But I knew I couldn't stay with a liar like Jess. Not anymore. As I drove away, I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Part of me still loved her, but I couldn't ignore the fact that she'd betrayed me so badly. The trust was gone. Completely. And I wasn't going to rebuild something that was rotten from the start. I needed to heal, too. Move on, even if it hurt like hell. I spent the next few days figuring out what I was going to do next. I knew I had to cut all contact, delete her from my life completely. I also realized that I had to be honest with myself about how much this betrayal had affected me. I used to think love was enough, but now I saw how fragile it really was. I learned that some people, like Jess, aren't worth the heartbreak. And I learned that revenge isn't just about hurting her, but about reclaiming myself. The aftermath hit me harder than I expected. I thought walking away would bring relief, but instead it left me with a hollow ache. I kept seeing her face, defiant, bitchy, lying straight to my face, when I told her I was done. I replayed every fight, every moment I should have seen the signs, every time she dismissed my concerns with some bullshit excuse. The betrayal cut deep, and honestly, I felt like I lost part of myself in that process. In the following days, I realized I couldn't just pretend it didn't happen. I needed to do something, anything, to regain control. I knew Jess would try to spin this into some poor Jess story, blame me for everything. But I wasn't going to let her. I wanted her to understand that her lies had consequences, that what she did wasn't just some mistake. It was a betrayal of everything we'd built. So I started gathering everything I had, screenshots of texts, photos, receipts, and I printed them out. I wanted to make sure she saw proof of her lies, her betrayal, in black and white. I even recorded some of our conversations, just in case she tried to deny things later. I wasn't planning to hurt her just to hurt her. I wanted her to see what she'd done, plain and simple. One night, I showed up at her apartment unannounced. I wanted her to see I wasn't backing down. I laid everything out on the table, the proof, the recordings, and told her that I knew the truth. Her face was a mask of fury and disbelief. She yelled, told me I was crazy, that I was making everything up. but I just looked her in the eyes and said, "No more lies. You're done hurting me, and I'm done pretending I didn't see what you did." She screamed, called me names, tried to turn things around, but it was useless. I was calm, determined. I wanted her to understand that this wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. It was about respect, about accountability, and she had none. Jess always thought she could manipulate everyone around her, but not anymore. I was done being her pawn. For the first time, I felt like I was taking back some power. I knew she'd try to spin this story, but I didn't care. I'd seen enough of her lies. I started blocking her from everything: her number, social media, email. I needed to cut her out completely if I was ever going to heal, because if I kept her in my life even a little, I'd just be opening myself up for more pain. The real shock came when I finally started to accept that she had moved on. I found out she'd already told her friends she was a victim, that I was just jealous and insecure. She was painting herself as the innocent one, as if she didn't do anything wrong. That made me even angrier, but I also realized I couldn't change her story. She was good at lying, but I was better at seeing the truth now. I've been trying to focus on myself since then. It's not easy. I still get angry, still wonder how someone I loved could do this, but I'm slowly moving forward. I don't want to dwell on her anymore. I want to rebuild my life, find someone who actually respects me and knows what loyalty means. Jess taught me a harsh lesson. Trust isn't something to take for granted, and some betrayals are irreversible. Now I know what I need to do: cut out the poison, focus on healing, and never let anyone treat me like that again. If I have one piece of advice for anyone in a similar situation, it's this: don't ignore the signs, don't let anyone make you doubt yourself, and don't stay in a toxic situation just because you're scared of being alone. Because in the end, you're better off alone than with someone who doesn't deserve you. Looking back, I realized that this whole ordeal changed me in ways I didn't expect. I used to believe in love, in trust, and in the idea that if you just loved someone enough, everything would work out. Jess shattered that illusion for me. She showed me what betrayal really looks like: cold, calculated, and merciless. I don't hate her, I don't think I ever will completely. But I do know that I'll never trust her again. That feeling of being duped, of losing everything I thought I had, still lingers. But I've learned something vital. Sometimes the biggest act of self-love is walking away from someone who doesn't deserve your loyalty, your trust, or your heart. I also learned how fragile relationships can be, how quickly they can fall apart when honesty and respect vanish, that you can't fix someone who chooses to lie and cheat, and that sometimes the best thing you can do is cut your losses and move on. It's not about giving up, it's about preserving your dignity and finding the strength to rebuild your life. Since all this happened, I've focused on myself. I've gone back to hobbies I'd ignored: working out, reconnecting with friends, and even trying therapy to unpack everything. Slowly, I feel the weight lifting. The pain is still there, but it's less oppressive. I've started to believe that I can love again, better, wiser, with more caution, but also with hope. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this: don't stay in a situation where your trust is being systematically destroyed. Don't ignore the signs of betrayal, no matter how much you love someone or how much you want things to work out. Because in the end, your happiness and self-respect come first. And if someone betrays you once, it's a sign they might do it again. The best revenge is living well and proving that your happiness doesn't depend on someone who would betray you so easily. So I'm moving forward. I'm done with Jess, and I'm ready to start building a life based on honesty, respect, and real love. It's a painful lesson, but it's one I'll carry with me forever. And if anyone out there is going through something similar, just remember, you're stronger than you think. Trust your instincts, stand up for yourself, and never let anyone make you feel less than you deserve.